Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to give us a big thumbs up, and share the broadcast. Thank you so much, family. Now, you all know I got to keep you in the loop about the goings on. I have been doing for a few years now, actually talking about pipelines between Nigeria and Morocco. Shortly after that news hit that the U.S. had interest in one of the world's largest pipeline projects, and that's been kept real secret. Yes, I have discussed with you also recently here about the Syrian pipeline that was at play for many years prior to the fall of Assad, and how just a couple of days after his overthrow in recent history, a couple of months ago, now they're talking about a particular pipeline there. Yes. Well, we see that the United States of America has credibly been accused of destroying Russia's one. Really, we are said to have bombed two of Russia's Nord Stream pipelines, but one beyond repair, the other they were able to repair. Now, this information, just so you know, is coming from world-renowned and acclaimed Seymour Hurst, a journalist. Here, this particular piece that I'm reading from says Seymour Hurst, the U.S. destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline. I've discussed him in times past, but I always like to give you sources for stuff that I say. It says last week, renowned investigative reporter Seymour Hersh published an article claiming that the U.S. was responsible for the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline, transporting natural gas to Germany from Russia. He spoke to Jacobin about the allegations, and then they asked him a number of questions. On September 26, 2022, I'm just giving you a little bit of background. The Nord Stream natural gas pipeline from Russia to Germany was largely destroyed by several explosions in the Baltic Sea. Last week, award-winning investigative reporter Seymour Hurst published an article based on information from a single anonymous source, arguing that the Biden administration and the CIA were responsible. It talks about some of his accreditations by saying that he won a Pulitzer Prize in 1970 for the role he played in breaking the story of the Malay massacre, an incident in which U.S. soldiers, I'm just going to say unalive, between 300 to 500 unarmed civilians. He spoke to Fabian Schindler from Jacobin about the allegations he made in this most recent article and the influence that the CIA and the national security state has on American foreign policy. Of course, I always refer to him. I have for the past couple of years on this story since I've been reporting it, but not just from him. I've also given you clips from Joe Biden with his big mouth, apparently out of his mind for a season when he was in office, when he slipped up and said it, that we would make sure that Russia's pipeline was not going to work. And when the reporter asked him, how do you mean? What do you mean when you don't control that? That's over there in Germany and Europe and stuff. He said, he basically told the journalist, trust me, we'll make sure it happens. And then Victoria Nuland, who is your modern, perhaps political WKKK, talk black to me, her along with Hillary Clinton and some other Karens and Beckys and Gretchens in political governmental high places. Talk black to me, somebody. I think she was involved in a hearing and something, and she slipped up and made U.S.'s intentions to destroy very, very clear. And she's directly involved in the 2014 coup that took place in Ukraine. Yes? Well, family, I want you to keep all that in mind, but there seems to be a recurring theme with these pipelines all over the world, and I need us to pay attention to that, family. That's the stuff that's not being spoken about. Yes? Well, beloved, how many of you all know the Pope Francis has passed? Services have been held in terms of his memorial already at the time of this airing. And in the upcoming days, they plan on selecting the new Pope when they begin to initiate in their conclave, I believe, sometime around May 7th, I believe is what I read. In this piece here, I'm reading from the Telegraph. It says Trump turns against Putin. President rages over Russian attacks and being strung along by Moscow after historic meeting with Zelensky at the Pope's funeral. Yes, it talks about how Trump turns on Vladimir Putin after holding one-on-one talks with Volodymyr Zelensky in St. Peter's Basilica at Pope Francis' funeral. It says on Saturday. Now, Trump publicly came out against Vladimir Putin, wanting him to stop, basically saying that he's being problematic about the peace talks and all this kind of stuff. Let me tell y'all something. Let's just get to the point. United States, we have clearly, based on not only what Joe Biden already made clear, the United States intentions to destroy it, in addition to what I just mentioned about Victoria Nuland, who was who was one of the emissaries and ambassadors and the wicked craftspersons involved in the drama with NATO, the United States, Ukraine, and Russia for years. Remember, I told you there was a coup from 2014. Family. And before I move forward, just a little bit of information on that 2014 coup. This piece that I'm reading here from the Embassy of Russian Federation in New Zealand, where it says the inconvenient truth about the coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014. On this very day, 10 years ago, Kyiv became ground zero for an unconstitutional coup that triggered all the events around Ukraine and now former regions ever since. It marked the culmination of the Euromaidan demonstrations, a series of public protests between November 2013 and February 2014. Organized with the involvement and support of Western countries. Some of the facts: February 21st, 2014, a day before the coup, Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych and the opposition, mediated by Germany, Poland, and France, reached an agreement intended to stop the bloodshed and pave the way for a political resolution to the crisis. However, as soon as Yanukovych ordered the withdrawal of law enforcement troops from the center of Kyiv, militants began storming government buildings. The Euromaidan protesters openly expressed neo-Nazi views. Images of Third Reich intelligence agent Stepan Bandera adorned captured buildings and were raised at rallies. The Maidan Square protests received overt support and funding from Western countries. The U.S. Embassy alone reportedly provided material support to protesting groups amounting to $1 million per day. Euromaidan activists resorted to the use of force in terrorist attacks, as evidenced by numerous cases of beatings and torture inflicted upon politicians and public figures who spoke out against the coup. Following the Euromaidan victory, the Kyiv regime's campaign of terror against dissidents became hallmark. For over a decade, the people of Donbass endured terrorist attacks and indiscriminate strikes from the Ukrainian armed forces and the neo-Nazi groups. More and more and more. I just want to give you a little bit of background. I know that was a lot of information, but I'm just trying to let you all know we've been messing with Ukraine, mess making, using Ukraine on behalf of NATO, the United States, or Western allies against Russia for a long time. We're able to prove it in no limit of time in recent history since 2014. I say recent history because really the drama preceded that. Now, with that being said, Trump, you don't have a right to turn on Vladimir Putin. What you talking about? Turn on? What do you mean rebuking him? We're the ones that's mess making. We're the ones that have more sanctions on them than anybody else practically, because we're trying to break them. And we've openly said that that's our job. We're trying to break Russia. Nobody has any reason to believe that we mean well when every time we say something or we come to an agreement, we blow it up, we lie, we do underhanded little slick stuff and blow up pipes and stuff, allegedly, credibly alleged. I don't care if it's Trump. You don't get to tell other countries what to do. And what is it to us? I keep saying, what, why do we care about what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and them? We're not even over there. What's that? It's not your business. The same way we sit up here telling China what to do with Taiwan, and Taiwan is officially a part of China. You don't get to tell them people what to do. This is crazy. I can't wait to see what you have to say about it. Below, beloved, my name is Vicki Dillard. I'm going to be exposing the powers that shouldn't be involved in stuff just like this and beyond. You ain't going to believe some of the spiritual magic that they're using by the main players that you see dominating the news today. They say they're the chosen people and a bunch of other stuff. You won't believe how the United States, we're very aware of some of the stuff that they're trying to do. And some of us don't understand that they're tapping into spiritual energies that are not always good, using it against us. I'm going to explain that and more. Now we can take back our power. This upcoming May, in one of my free webinars, learn more about it by going to my website at vickiplanet.com. That's VICKI planet.com. Share the broadcast, comment below. I can't wait to